I think greatly strengthened the ordinance and of course highlights your work. And it, again, I think will stimulate some discussion about what's the difference, where equity and human rights overlap, where they're different, and how do we make sure that we take care of both aspects. We didn't make any particular wording changes in these letters. Letter K, the Fulton Public Schools Educational Equity Policy, which is will be attached, is an example of what another public entity has done to make a very sound, definitive statement, not only about what they believe, but how they're going to act. And that might be an early implementation action of the Office of Equity and Human Rights, is that we would jointly come up with a policy statement like that.
Commissioner?
Yes.
I think in one place where we do a search from place like that, and it isn't clear, that there are separate functions, is exemplified in letter G, where it says equity and human rights will be key priorities internally. So one of the ways I've heard people talk, and not just people in this room, but people we've talked with, distinguish those is that a lot of what we will do will be external. And so where that sentence used to say equity will be key priority internally, when we add human rights, we might want to bring in the word externally. And it actually comes in later, back in the original ordinance. That's one of the distinctions that might be made between the two sides of the work.
That's very helpful. It's intended that equity and human rights will be internally, and then the second half of the sentence refers to some of the external work that's being done.
Okay.
That's a very important. And what we found, and Denise, you described the hearing as beautiful, and that's the word that I've been thinking about it as. It was absolutely beautiful. And we had 3 hours of testimony from folks from every walk of life, and with every kind of disability. And, everybody supported the approach that we're taking, astonishingly, which is to create a new bureaucracy and staff it with city staffing. That's the first thing that we're going to do. And a lot of the folks in the community, in Willamette Week and elsewhere, have not at all understood why that's important. The folks who've been involved, and I think you are particularly super aware of how important having city staff to help get your work done really is. And you have to have staff who are focused, dedicated, and responsible and accountable for getting the work done. So that was very surprising to me that nobody came in and said, no, that's, start by having grants in the community or start by doing something else. The other thing that has been a pervasive challenge is that obviously this is a huge problem, and it didn't start in the last 2 years, and it's not going to get fixed in the next 2 years. It's been developing for centuries. It's in every aspect of how we live our lives. So we had to focus on something to start off with. Otherwise, as I know has been a challenge for you with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, you have to pick particular projects to work on, which you've done really well, knowing that there's a whole bunch of other things that we understand are part of our charge, and we can't necessarily work on in the first year. So the consensus so far has been that the office will start by looking internally at what the city government has been doing right and not so well, and what we can do to improve.
But just to make sure that you understand my point of view, is that when I look back over 20 years and lack of the kind of progress I'd like to see on these issues, the fact that we've either focused nearly exclusively internally is a problem. I think that you've got to create that external sort of positive, virtuous, accountable feedback loop, because if the culture of the entire city is different than the culture of the government, it's going to be hard to have the government an oasis of equity and human rights. So having your advice and work and the strategy focus on both, I think, is really important. But like I said, leading by example, but not ending with just city government. It's just not big enough. As powerful as your city government might be, the city and the communities obviously has work to do apart from what city government needs to do.
And another way that this is different is that the mayor and I are working on it in partnership, and usually a project or a bureau is assigned to one commissioner or to the mayor, but not with a very clear partnership. So we want to model that this is a way that the Commission on Form of Government can work better, and that many of which are already doing some of this work that we can learn from, network with, and certainly hope to partner with. So, letter O, I think, is particularly important because it recognizes that the city attorney's office has a role both in making sure that civil rights are upheld, and also that we have data-based backing up for the processes that we do. We had a recent disparity study where, which gives us a legal basis to do contracting in a different way. And so that's what that particular paragraph refers to.
Excuse me, Commissioner.
Yes.
As far as O is concerned, the suggestion here is that city attorney is the final arbiter of disputes about civil rights or equity-related issues.
It's a statement of fact that right now the city attorney advises the city council on whether or not we're meeting all state and federal regulations. And, surprisingly, we are. And yet, we are not satisfied with the outcome.
There is a dispute in the definition utilized by the city attorney, who then moderates that discussion.
The city council.
And sometimes we choose to accept the risk that the city attorney is telling us sits in a particular decision. But it says must work with, so it's not in this ordinance, it doesn't change any of the accountability. Thank you for the question. Any other questions on, before we get to the now therefore?
I'd like to suggest that there should be a section Q in this document. And since these are whereases, I would like to see a statement acknowledging the strong work that the Human Rights Commission has done. And let me frame this for you. Mayor Adams, I started with the city about the same time you were a young man starting at the city. And we're about to see some possible really major political change coming. And three positions on council are up. And these ordinances, there can be a lot of sort of underlying assumptions that those of us sitting here at the table today agree on. But 3 years down the road, people are going, well, this means this means that. And my particular concern is the ongoingness of the Human Rights Commission and acknowledgement of its recommendations, which, as you know, council has not always voted in favor of the recommendations that the Human Rights Commission has made. And I'm particularly concerned that committees like the Community and Police Relations Group are not called out here, whose independence and close connection with the Human Rights Commission, I believe that many, if not most of my fellow commissioners would say is integral to the work that we do, that piece, that collaborative dialogue between community and police must occur within the framework of the Human Rights Commission. And there's nothing in here that really kind of protects that. So my recommendation for a section Q, which I think we would all be happy with being Q, would be acknowledging the contributions that the HRC has made over time, and particularly the importance of the independence, or at least its independence may not be the word that we all want. So let some wordsmiths join in, but at least its relationship to the Committee on Community and Police Relations.
Good suggestion.
I think it is a good suggestion. That committee actually started in the police bureau. And
This is a different
No.
committee.
and Maria Lisa
sections that exist now for HRC, which are the 3.128 and 3.129. So one that I guess, but we're not replacing the jurisdiction, which is in the original ordinance is 3.129030, which assigns the racial profiling committee to the HRC. Is that correct? And so that I think is the birth of CPRC and the reason that it's with the HRC.
Right.
Actually, CPRC is a committee of this commission, into which, working with the Office of Human Relations and the rest of us, it would determine that particular component on racial profiling would be housed within that committee's agenda. So this is our commission, our committee. We created it and then incorporated the work that the office was doing into our work.
And there's no proposal to change that in this ordinance.
I think it's strengthened by including your suggestion.
Yeah. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what we're then directing. And if the process from here on in is we'll have another subcommittee meeting tomorrow, which Alan is going to be able to attend and bring you the results of the discussion at Friday tonight. And then we'll be filing any substitute ordinance next Wednesday, just like 3 minutes. So we'll continue to take suggestions until that point. So we want to state some commitments, which is what A through, none of this has been changed. So A through E is all what we had proposed before, except adding equity and human rights, as well as far as what the office will do. Because it's really important to recognize there is no office just yet until there's a director in a place. It's a concept. So this ordinance is the first step, and I think Alan's charts are really helpful in looking at the short term and the long term. Nothing in this precludes a charter change that would establish a commission to a human rights commission to do something different or be in a different place.
Nor is the work plan by any means adequate or final, and it is an exhibit.
Yeah, the work plan, which is another exhibit, is clearly stated to be a draft. I know the importance of having a director who's an expert in the subject matter, and also in this particular case, of including the community, including the Human Rights Commission, and figuring out what that work plan is. It's based on the Portland Plan Equity Initiative action items. Our colleagues wanted some more specificity in order to free up the money that they allocated in the budget this past year. But as the mayor said, it's illustrative and
I do think there is work underway that I'm excited to get in front of you, and I think you would find invigorating. The substantive work that's underway, for example, partnership with the Coalition of Communities of Color and others, and PSU to go through the most recently completed census, and to have the city adopt a, I don't know what's the word, truthful or more accurate census, acknowledging sort of the persistent undercounts that occur. That's an example of, just to give you a sense of what might be becoming, for you can decide, we don't need to see that